Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once again to the Big Data Ecosystem. My name is Eric Cavanaugh. I'll be your moderator for today's demo. We're talking to Actian. The folks over at Actian have some really interesting stuff. They've pulled together quite a remarkable platform from a variety of technologies. We're going to hear all about the Actian Analytics platform from Jim Hare and Emma McGrattan. So with that, Jim, take it away.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, we're very excited to announce our Actian Analytics platform, Hadoop SQL Edition. Part of the platform, what we're able to do is allow you to bring data into Hadoop with high speed. So we provide high-speed data connectivity to over 200 different sources. And then running natively inside Hadoop, we have a high-performance analytics data flow engine where you can actually build and run data science and analytic workloads. But you don't have to be a data scientist with MapReduce programming skills to be able to do it. And you can leverage hundreds, thousands of libraries of different analytical functions to build those workflows. Again, being able to do that with a drag and drop type of interface. And then all those analytical results can be stored in Hadoop natively on HDFS, and we provide a high-performance SQL Analytics database to allow you to deliver SQL access to all that Hadoop data. To net it out, we're transforming Hadoop into a high-performance analytics platform. Let's go to the next slide, and I'll show you exactly how it works. So if you look at your Hadoop environment, you'll see that inside there's Yarn as well. On the left-hand side, there's that high-speed data integration to connect all your data and bring it into Hadoop. And then what you're able to do is connect to all that data on your data nodes and build those visual data analytic workflows with just the drag and drop libraries that you see up at the top. All that data is stored then on other data nodes within a compressed file format where it's a columnar-based block that's binary and compressed. And then what we're able to do is provide that high-performance SQL access using a vectorized analytics database to all those SQL users. So in this demo you're going to see in just a minute, you'll actually see how you're able to use those analytical workflows. We'll actually show you a side-by-side comparison of using our SQL Analytics database compared to one of the industry standards. So Emma, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Jim. So we're going to start with Actian Data Flow. So Data Flow is a very simple workbench, point-and-click interface. Even I can use it. And I can build a workflow that can be quite rich in terms of the functionality that it provides, build it on my desktop, and then deploy it on a very large cluster. I'm starting with a very simple example here. I've got a delimited text file reader. In fact, I've got two of them. I'm reading data here. If we take a look at this, reading data from a CRM customer data file that I've exported that I've exported. You'll see that I've got some data in here. We're storing information about the customer's ID, their age, their gender, whether or not they have children, number of children, education in terms of number of years in formal education, and some information on their income. And we're then going to join that with some data that we've taken from geospatial information. So we want to understand, based upon their zip code, where they are, because we want to determine something about these customers. So very simple to join. If I take a look at this, I can identify, I'm joining these two tables, point and click. I'm joining a customer ID on the top table with customer ID in a different case here in the bottom table, but really simple to use. I can then derive a field. So let's say I don't know the total number of minutes that my customers are using their cell phones for. I can derive that by the number of calls they make and the average call duration in minutes, and then very simply just drag and drop in here the ability to load that data into Actian Vector. It's incredibly simple, but if we look down the left-hand side of the screen here, what you'll see is some really rich capabilities that are provided. So if we take a look inside some of these capabilities here, under Analytics, for instance, we can see I can do k-means clustering. So if I wanted to take a look at clusters of information, k-means is a good way of getting there. I can put in some decision trees. I can put in some learners, so look at past behaviors, and put in some predictors, so I can predict future behaviors. I can do any types of transformation, some aggregations here if I want to join some data, if I want to union a couple of tables, if I want to do any type of manipulation on the data. There's a lot in here, and it's as simple as pointing, clicking, and dropping it onto the workbench. So really simple to use, and this is probably an overly simplistic example, but it's good to understand the basics. And one of the things that's quite fascinating about this tool is how easy it is to develop on a desktop environment and then very quickly deliver those analytic capabilities to your Hadoop clusters. So what I have on my screen now is a much more complex workflow, and this is something that is pulling data from a number of sources. We'll see up here in the top left-hand corner that we're pulling data from Hadoop. In this case, it's census data. We'll take a look at that, see what type of information that we're collecting in here. So we've got zip code information, the towns within the zip code, states, and so on. So from our census data, we're taking zip codes and populations. In our databases here, we've got data coming from a number of data sources, including our own matrix. What you'll see here, our MPP database. So we're able to pull data from Hadoop sources and from non-Hadoop sources, and we can pull some files on Hadoop. So if we look down here in the bottom of the screen, and we're pulling some information on customer demographics. For example, here it's a delimited text file. We'll see that we've got in there information about customers' ages, genders, ethnicity, and so on. And we might be interested in their finances, right? So the example that we're using here, which I probably should have already explained, is it's a telecoms company. And what they're trying to identify is why are customers leaving? So they refer to it as customer churn. And what they're going to do is look at customers that have left in the past and see if they can tell something about patterns within the customers that have left in the past to determine who are the customers that are likely to leave in the future so that they could get ahead of that train and see what they can do to stop it. So in this example, what we have is a competitor that's running a marketing campaign and putting some pressure on these customers, offering them some very attractive deals to move. And those marketing campaigns tend to be very targeted, so we've assumed that there's a regional marketing pressure going on in here. Again, this is taken from a data source, and we're able to tell at what places how much pressure is being applied by zip code. So, really simple to use, incredibly rich analytics. So in this case, we're pulling information in from all of these different data sources. You'll see here that we have support for a number of different Hadoop formats that are quite common. And we've got a number of databases, as I said already. And then as we feed this through, we just point and click, build out this model. At the end of the model, we can then say whether or not I want to run it on my desktop, which is where I'm developing this, or by simply going into our preferences option here. Under Actian Preferences, I can say I'd rather run it in my cluster. So by going from my local profile to my clustered profile, right, you'll notice one thing that's changed. I've got a very simple laptop here, so I don't have parallelism and so on set up. On my cluster, I'm going to set it up for 8 parallel streams. Minimum level of parallelism that I want is 4. I've changed the cluster URL, I should say, so that it's pointing to my Hadoop cluster. So that's really all I had to do, right? I set this up once, and if I find that there's a problem with my model and I want to go back to developing on my desktop, I just have to change this one setting. So incredibly rich functionality and very simple to use, but has the power to grow from the smallest desktop. You can scale out your environment, or you can scale up the environment. We provide support for all of that. So that's some very rich analytics, and behind this is our Vector in Hadoop product that's driving those analytics and delivering results very quickly to the business user. And so one of the things that we pride ourselves on in the Vector in Hadoop solution is our support for the latest SQL standards. So we're constantly striving to stay up to date with the standards, and by being standards compliant, it means that any of the standard BI tools that you typically find in an organization will just work out of the box with Vector and Hadoop. So if we were to take, for instance, in the example that I'm using here, Tableau, right, and decide that now that we've connected to whole plethora of data sources. We've performed all kinds of data cleansing, data enrichment, and we've done a lot of analysis. It's time to turn this over to the business user who wants to make some decisions around campaigns that they might have in terms of stemming the flow of customers leaving the telecoms provider. They might be interested in seeing things like, predicting churn based upon the device that people are using, right? Maybe the iPhone users are all waiting for the next phone to come out. I know myself, I skip every other iPhone generation, so I'm excited for the next one. Maybe they want to predict churn based upon number of years in formal education. That's something that they can do from here. But by providing support for standard BI tools, it means that the business user, without having to learn any MapReduce, without having to learn even SQL, can very quickly derive value from our platform and just use the power of the performance that we provide, and it's quite breathtaking. So talking about performance, let me move on to the next part of the demonstration, which is the database. So if I were a car salesman, I guess I'd be taking you for a look under the hood right now. So our Actian Vector in Hadoop engine is a scaled out version of the Actian Vector product. And we didn't just take it and scale it out and say, okay, now it can connect through to Hadoop. We actually are running our X100 vector processing engine in each of the data nodes that's participating in the worker set on the cluster. So we get incredible performance out of this, and I think what you can stay tuned for some amazing benchmark results later this year, because our plan is to top the table in clustered environments soon enough. So here in this example, I've connected through to our Hadoop cluster here. So we're running the Actian Vector Hadoop edition. What I have down here is a benchmarking table. So this is a 3 terabyte TPC DS benchmark that I've set up on the cluster for demonstration purposes. I'm using the Actian Director tool. This Actian Director tool is part of the Actian Analytics Platform Hadoop SQL edition. And I can again, it's point and click and its simplicity. I can draw out a list of all of the tables that I have in the database. There's one table that's particularly interesting to me. It's highlighted with this little green flag here, and that indicates that this is a partition table. So I want to take a look at my partitions table. What I can see if I take a look at just expand this list of partitions here, what I'll see is I partitioned this table 40 ways, so it probably has a lot of really interesting data in it. And by right-clicking on the table and taking a look at the properties, I can see that this table actually has 8.6 billion rows in it. And so I'm going to execute a query against my table with 8.6 billion rows. Now, this is a query here on the right-hand side of the screen that I've set up. I started saying set no reuse, right? So the fact that I ran this query before I started the demonstration to make sure that everything worked okay, may have loaded things into cache. So what I'm doing here is saying that do not load the caches when start again. And what this query is doing is a standard TPCDS query. And what it's going to do is select the top 10 brands that generate the most revenue, right? So I'm going to sum up the price here for a given geography and a given manager ID working in a store in a given month and a given year. So what we're going to do is go through all of the store sales that are in our store sales table and identify all of those sales that happened within this month of this year when this manager was on duty, but only for those customers that are shopping in a zip code that they don't live in. So I don't know why, but this is the query that they came up with at the TPC Council. And what we're going to do now is execute this query. And what you'll see is we're processing those 8.3 billion rows in no time flat, right? So we've come back with our top 10 results already. So blindingly fast, but it's a simple point-and-click interface. All you need to know is SQL. We never need to know MapReduce to run the Hadoop SQL edition of our platform. And one last thing that I'd like to share with you is a demonstration that we did at the Hadoop Summit earlier this year. And in our demonstration, what we wanted to show was how our performance stacks up against Impala, because Impala is known for performance. And we thought, given that they grew up in Hadoop, right? They purpose-built this product for Hadoop. We wanted to prove that we could best them on their home turf if you will. And what we did was we're running a query here in identical configurations, and you'll see now the query's already come back in our Actian SQL in Hadoop product, and we're still waiting for the Impala query that's running in exactly the same hardware to come back. While we're waiting for Impala, let's take a look at the query. It's I'm using Yellowfin, another standard BI tool. You'll see there Impala's come back. If we look at the SQL statements that we've run for the Actian SQL in Hadoop product, and what you'll see is it's very simple standard SQL. Again, it's that same sales information, just different queries coming at the data in different ways. If we take a look at the Cloudera Impala version of that query, what you'll see is it looks similar, except for the fact that you need to here specify which partitions are going to participate in solving the query. So when you're writing these queries, it's not just a matter of using standard SQL, you also have to know exactly how your data is laid out on disk and where the data is that's going to satisfy the query. I think of it often as getting into a taxi in New York City where you have to tell the taxi driver exactly the cross streets that you want to get to, where they just can't get you there given an address. It's quite similar. You have to know exactly how the data is laid out and where you're going to find the data that's going to solve your query. And sure, if you knew that, that's half the job done. So that's it for a quick tour of the Actian Analytics Platform Hadoop SQL Edition. You've seen a number of the components, but I think what I've tried to get across to you is just how well this performs. Everything's operating natively within Hadoop in the most performant way possible. So back to Jim.
Thanks, Emma. So if you have Hadoop and you're struggling how to take all that data you're collecting and turn it into business information that can help really transform your organization, take a look at the Actian Analytics Platform Hadoop SQL Edition. It'll be the product that will actually help you start transforming that data and giving you the value you need to leverage all that data to help your organization. So thank you.
All right, folks, we've been talking to Emma McGrattan and Jim Hare from Actian. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch up to you next time, folks. Thanks again. Bye-bye.